Hello fellow woodworkers, welcome to this week's edition of the Garage Workshop 10-minute tool review. And this week we're going to be having a look at some of my homemade DIY accessories. Let's get started. So as many of you all know, fellow woodworkers, YouTube is full of videos of YouTubers making their own woodwork accessories, whether that's jigs for a table saw or a miter saw or homemade clamps or vices. There's lots and lots of different videos that are out there about making things to help you with woodworking. And as you've seen in my previous video, I do have access to a 3D printer, so I thought it would be good to just take some of the most popular things that are currently out there for tools and just test them, see what they're like. So I picked a selection and I got all of these from the main sort of 3D printing website called Thingiverse. I'll put a link to it in the description. And I know you don't all have access maybe to a 3D printer, but this is more about the principle of whether you can make things that are helpful for you, either out of wood or out of filament, or whether you're just better off buying them. So we're going to go through them one by one, starting with this, which is quite easy to see what it is. It is a homemade screw-in clamp. Now, this printed out in 3 different pieces, and I should say, for those of you that have got 3D printers, I did this all really quick on a really low standard because I didn't want to use too much filament, so it will probably affect the strength a little bit. But this is just a really basic 3D clamp. Now, you're not going to use this clamp for clamping together big end joints. It's not about that. It's using it for smaller little things. I have already used this clamp, and when we come onto it in a minute, I'll tell you exactly how it works. So a clamp for clamping things together in the workshop. This one, very simple. Again, I'll give you a close-up of all of these. And this is literally just a drill dust collector. So you put your drill in it in the end, and I should say that this one that I printed out, it will only accept an 8mm drill. You can get them in lots and lots of different sizes, but I went for the 8mm one. Very simple. It's got a little dust collector in there, and all it does is you put your drill through it, hold it to the wall, whatever you're drilling, and it collects dust. So we are actually going to use that on a piece of wood because I haven't got any brick that we can use it on. We're going to have a look at that on a piece of wood in a bit. The third one, which looks much more complicated and is in a few pieces, is this. And again, I'll give you a close-up. And what this is, it's a clamp holder, and it's specifically designed for the Parkside clamps. So what you basically do is put the clamp inside it, and it gives you a right angled clamping angle rather than at the moment just a flat face of your clamp. It comes with some different accessories. Here, exactly the same thing here. This one is just a bit of a smaller one, and it also allows you to put different pieces in it to do different things. So that fits in there, and that allows you to have a sort of right angled push clamp. But what is good about these is it's got some little holes in it. I'll show you a close-up of those, and oops, and it does come with a peg if you don't throw it all over the floor. Okay, so there's the peg, and the peg literally just slides in the hole on the clamp. And as you can see, and I'll do a better look at this in a minute, it just holds that centerpiece in place. Now, it's quite a substantial little pin, that, and I only printed one out, but again, you can print out multiples. So that's the third item. The fourth item is related to my DeWalt sander. As you'll have seen in previous videos, and I've also done a review of it, I'll put that in the description. I've got a DeWalt sander, and I put in the exact model name into Thingiverse and did a search, and it came up with 2 of these. These are the most popular dust collection adapter hoses to take down to a 2.5mm hose, so it fits in a standard shop vac or vacuum cleaner. So these are the 2 at the moment that are the most popular. It comes in one, so I went and downloaded one set, and it comes with 2 variants, and it's configured to use the airlock system, and if you don't know what that is, on some of the DeWalt sanders they have like a pin locking system where you have to put an adapter in and sort of turn it. It's very standard, and that locking system keeps the dust extraction in place. So these two units, two examples of the same thing. Now they look very similar, and compared, all the right sizes are all exactly the same size. So we'll have a little look and see how that works out. And the last item is this, which is a sanding block. Now this was a continuous print on the 3D printer, and if you don't know what it is, basically that's all printed out in one piece, and it had already put in the sort of hinge bracket on the end. So when it printed out, it was laid flat like that, and you just pop it off, and it's got a little cap at the end which closes in. So you put the sandpaper all the way around there for the sanding block, you close the lid, and then you trap it. So we'll see how that goes. We'll put that through its paces. So 5 very common everyday items that you would use in your woodworking. So we're going to test them out one at a time. Okay, so the first product that we're going to try are these two dust extraction adapters for the sander. Now my sander is a DeWalt DWE 6423, and as I said, it's got the airlock system on it, which is just a set of ridges that allow you to lock on the dust extractor. At the moment I've just got the little sort of bag one, the one that looks a bit like a microphone that comes with it, which is really good. It contains a lot, it holds in a lot of the particles, but obviously it's not a big dust extraction. So this one, and I initially when I printed this out, thought that that was what the hose connected to, and I think I might have said that in the introduction, so apologies. It's actually built for a much wider sort of girth adapter, or hose that goes into the adapter. So there's 2 of these, and having just done a little bit more reading, I understand now why there is 2 of them, and I'll explain that a little bit in a minute. So you've got this one and this one. Now they are specifically designed for that airlock system. So what I'm going to do is just try and see if I can fit it on first. Well, that's going on. It's seated as far down as it should be. I'll give you a close-up of this. It's a really nice fit actually. I'm quite surprised about that, but obviously it needs to have the ring on it. So if I just take that off a minute, I just wanted to check it actually fitted, which it did, and then it sits inside the ring. Push it back on. That is a really, really good fit actually. And then this ring attaches here, and in the instructions this is the bit that it says that you have to glue. So you glue the ring to this adapter section. Now I don't suppose you have to do it, but it's not a great fit. That could really do with a bit of epoxy in there just to glue it, but it fits it. It's nice and rigid. It's not the straightest print in the world, but again, I just printed these on a really, really fast setting, but overall I'm impressed with that. It actually does work. So we'll put that first one down as a success. Let's see if we can get the second one to work now. This one is a different design. This one is actually designed to spin, so that when you're sanding and you've got it connected to the sander, and again this one is not glued, it does need to be glued in. When you are sanding and it's rotating, it's actually designed to stay where it is. Now it does that through these little cutout sections. I'll give you a close-up of those in a minute. And these little cutout sections there sort of pop out and hold it in place, almost like the back of a sort of fish hook or a barb, and it stops it from coming out. Now I can tell you now, I don't think they're going to work. Even when they're fully extended out, which they're not at the moment, I don't think that they're going to be strong enough to hold it on. It's very loose already and coming off, and of course you could glue this, but then you lose the ability for it to rotate. So let's just check this fits. It should do, because it's pretty much the same as that. Now, interestingly, it does fit, but it's nowhere near as good a fit as the other one. It's definitely on there, but it is not as equal all the way around. There's a little bit of a gap on one side, and I think that gap will potentially let air or dust out. So that does fit, that obviously fits in, and it does work. You can see if I hold that straight, it does rotate round. So not a failure, and it would be a bit harsh to say it's a failure, but not really a true success. I think these pin bits that pop out, they really could do with a little bit more or a different system, because all you'd need is, there's a ridge inside, you just literally need something to catch on that ridge, just to stop it coming out. So had that worked a little bit better or been printed a little bit better, definitely a success. So I'm going to say that's in the middle, neither hit or miss. Okay, so the next item we're going to test is this, which is the little mini clamp. Now, I should say straight off, it's not designed for clamping two chunky great big pieces of wood together, which is exactly what I'm going to do with it, but that's not really what it's designed for. It's designed more for sort of smaller, intricate clampings, and I have already used this. I have a little rubber sort of covering that goes over the door holder on my external door, and it was just a bit perished and a bit rubbery, and it had a few splits in it. So I just got it off and I super glued it together, and I used this clamp to hold it, and it was absolutely perfect for that job. It did apply a surprising amount of pressure. I was really quite blown away with how much it held it together. It was really good. It did a good job. It's nice and strong. There's no play at all in the actual threaded bit, and the maximum sort of grip size, we'll just measure it, is, interestingly, it's exactly 40 mil or 4 centimeters, which is what it says it is in the description. So it's a very simple clamp. In terms of the depth, clamping depth, you've got 25 mil. So oops, you literally can just clamp it together. Let's try that again. So you literally can just clamp things together. Now, I'm tightening it there, and I'm starting to feel that's the sort of maximum amount of pressure, but there's no play in those. See, I can't move them anyway, upside down or inside out, and it's clamping them there nice and firmly. The only thing is, there is a bit of play in the actual shape. I'll try and give you a close-up and see if you can see the actual clamp is bending outwards there. It's not touching all the way, so let me loosen it off and see if I can lay both pieces of wood on the bottom of the clamp, which, to be honest, I didn't do the first time, and let's see if that's any better. Yeah, that's much better. There's no sort of clamping or squeezing or pushing out. So overall, really impressed with that. You can buy clamps this size, of course, but to have that little printed out, and again, I've only printed this in the fastest printing mode, very thin. If I did a proper print out of that, I think it would be a lot more rigid, and I'm really pleased with how that's turned out. And I should have said at the beginning, it does come in 3 pieces. So you have the end, which clips on, and then you have the screwed sort of handle bit and the threaded inside. So it does actually come in 3 pieces, but that for me is a real winner. I wouldn't use it for anything major, but for little jobs around the workshop, absolute winner for me. Okay, so the next one we're going to try is the sanding block. I have to say, of all the things I printed, this is the one I think that A, looks the best, and B, even at the very thin PLA that I picked and the speed that I picked, it feels the most substantial. I mean, I do like these all-in-one prints. I have to be honest, I've got a couple of them. I've got a couple of stands that are all-in-one, and I tend to find that they work out really well. The only issue, of course, with this is going to be the wear and tear on this. But again, if I like it and I'll print it out at a different thickness, then I think it will be much better. So it's just a standard sanding block. So you put the block across the bottom, and it matches nicely the size of my sanding paper, and you put it across the top like so on both sides, get it under enough tension, and then you literally just fold it over. Could have probably done, to be fair, with making that sandpaper a little bit bigger, and then it just clips on. So there it is, all ready to go. Not that much slack, and it's actually holding that paper in pretty tight. So I've just got this old scrap of wood. Let's give it a go. Yeah, really good. It still kept the grip in place. This has slipped a little bit, but to be honest, it hasn't slipped to the point where it would flip off. And the thing about plastic is there is a bit of give in it, so I can push it that way. But the actual sanding block works really nicely. Mega flat on the bottom. And for a little 3D printed sanding block, it's going to be really useful. The other thing I should have said is actually you've got these in different shapes. There's some with like a wider sort of triangled angle, so you can really get into pieces of wood. So lots of different shapes as well to these, but I like that. I think that's going to be really handy around the workshop. So for me, that's definitely a winner. Okay, for this next one, what we've got is essentially a set of corner clamps for a parkside clamp. Now, there's a number of pieces in here, and you'll have seen in the close-up earlier, there's different configurations of how things can go together, but essentially what you do is you start by taking the clamps off, the rubber protectors off of a standard parkside clamp. Now, as I said, this has been designed for parkside. I'm not sure if it's going to fit anything else, but it has been designed for this. So this will be the acid test to see whether it actually works. Now, there's two ways of attaching them depending on the use. If I use this as just the right hand clamp, here there's a groove, an edge in it, and that slides on. Now you can see there is virtually no play. It's the whole head moving in that. Virtually nothing there. So that's one end, and then you've got a larger end that sits there for it to go into. So you put the clamp on like so, and it literally is as simple as that. So if you want to use it to clamp two pieces of wood together, I'm going to try and do this now one-handed. So if you want to clamp two pieces of wood together, for example, and you don't have anyone around to help you out, and you picked a ridiculously long piece of wood like I just did, let's just loosen that off a little bit. So it will take two pieces of wood like this. I think I've roughly got them in place now. Not helped by the fact, as I said, I've picked a really big heavy piece of wood. So I'll give you a bit of a close-up, but hopefully you can see that that has put those pieces of wood in at a right angle. So I'm just going to get my square and we'll measure how much a right angle it is. So using one of my trusted squares, let's have a look. Now, potentially it could be the way I've clamped it, but both of those pieces of wood are straight. And if I line up my square here, I think you can hopefully see that is out by quite a bit. Again, I'll give you a close-up of that, but that is going to be out by, wow, that's quite a bit actually. Let me measure it. As I said, I know both of these pieces of wood are straight. Yeah, so it's out by 4 mil, and again, it could be the way that I've got the wood clamped, but I don't think it is. It is good in the fact that it's holding the two pieces together. It's nice and strong, nice and sturdy, and all the power of the clamp has been transferred, but the whole point of having this obviously is for accuracy, and not very accurate. Let's just run it on the square. Yeah, so again, I'll give you a close-up of this, but I think even that very crude way, you can see it's at least a couple of mil out on the right angle there, and on the other side, yeah, it's about a mil, 2 mil out on that side. So good idea in principle, very clever, very nicely done, very cleverly done, but for me, not accurate enough to make it a winner. So unfortunately, the Parkside clamp is going to be a fail. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to try is the little dust collector for the drill bit. Now, off camera, I have just noticed, and I'll give you a close-up of this in a minute, that the drill bit will not go through the hole. Now, on the description, it clearly says an 8mm drill bit will fit through the hole. Now, I broke my 8mm drill bit, so I've actually got a 7mm here, and that won't fit through the hole either. It's not out by much, and I probably could sort of drill and widen the hole if I wanted to, but that sort of defeats the object. So for me, that's not a great start. If it's meant to be an 8mm drill bit holder, it's meant to hold an 8mm drill bit, and it won't take a 7, either the description's wrong, or the drill bit itself, the hole is printed much smaller than it should have done. So I'm going to go and see if I can try a 6 and see if that will work. Okay, so I'm back with a 6mm drill bit, and I'm pleased to say it does go in. It needed a bit of persuasion the first time, but I think that's just because there's a little bit of sort of extra printed material. It definitely fits into it. So what I'm going to do, not a very scientific test of this, but basically what I'm going to do is just get my piece of drilling wood, put it in, and then we'll see how it goes from there. Okay, so as you will have seen, you just saw me drill it. The good thing is, I'll show you in a sec, there's lots of sawdust in it, but the bad thing is it was not able to, the drill bit was not able to stay in line. And if you have a look here, hopefully you can see that it's pretty much destroyed the hole. So it's no longer, not only is it not straight, but all of the printed material has come out. You can quite clearly see it did have a lot of the dust, but the hole that you use for the drill bit is pretty much destroyed. And actually, design wise, I'm not sure that's a great design. What could have done, if I reprint this, I'll make a little modification. What I could have done is just got 2 6mm washers and CVA glued them either side, front and back, to sort of make sure that the drill stayed in place. But although it has collected the wood that's come off, it has destroyed the hole, which for me means, unfortunately, that's an epic fail. Okay, so fellow woodworkers, we've got to the end of the little mini test, and I'm just going to give you my breakdown of what I thought was brilliant, what I thought wasn't, and what's really surprised me. So the one that's really surprised me is actually this one. I think this is such a good idea, and whoever designed it really did a good job, because if you think about it, you are essentially taking a single-use clamp and giving it a multi-use. Now, lots of things are good in theory, but the actual application of this, I think it could be down to the printing, which, you know, you can't do anything about. Really, it prints as well as the image file, but it's just not quite right, which is a shame, because actually I could see that having a lot of applications in the garage workshop. So that's the one that I think it's the biggest shame that it didn't really work, because again, really good idea. The one that really surprised me was this one, the rotating dust extractor for the sander. When I looked at it, I didn't think there was a million years that was going to fit. It's an absolute perfect fit, and if I can just think of another way of sorting out that the little curvy bits that go inside the airlock system, I think that is going to be really good. But if not, and by default I just end up with this one, then that's going to be a massive thing. So that is the one that I was really surprised at. I didn't think that would work, and it did. So for me, that's a good one. Now, what's my overall favorite? What do I think is the winner? Well, for me, the sanding block is the absolute winner. Very simple, very easy to use, and I think that's going to end up having a lot of use in the garage workshop. But there is a little caveat to it. You hopefully can see, I think, perhaps that the plastic on the top has bent over. It hasn't stopped it coming undone, it's just as connected as it was before. But that, I think, is down to the fact that I printed this in a really fast manner. I didn't go for a high quality print. I've gone for a very quick, very fast print with not very much thickness on the PLA. So I'm actually going to reprint that properly in a really nice way, really high quality print, because that is the thing I think I'm going to get a lot of use of. But there's only one place in terms of the absolute loser, and that was this. It did half of its job. Apologies if you can hear. I think everyone's decided to take their microlight out for a fly today. There's another one going over. It's about the fourth one. So really disappointed with this. Good idea, good concept, but really not something I think that you would necessarily ever want to do in plastic that's as thin as that. And again, I think I could adapt this design. I could stick either side, or stick on this side. You wouldn't actually need it on the back, so it would stop it lying flush with the wall. But all you'd need really is a washer stuck on there to make sure that you didn't get that sort of barreling around the hole and the losing it. So for me, this is the absolute loser of all of the things today. So we've come to the end of the video. Thank you so much. I hope, even if you haven't got a 3D printer, I really hope you've lasted this long. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to let me know via liking and leaving me a comment. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for joining me. Please can I ask you to subscribe and like and comment. If you're a regular viewer, thank you so much for your ongoing support. I'm really loving all the feedback, and the views on the channel is really impressive. So please also remember to like and comment. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I'll catch you on next week's edition of the Garage Workshop. Take care, fellow woodworkers.